I'm gonna do my best to keep it that short because I know we got a lot of stuff to do today. But today I'm doing something that, I feel like I've talked to a lot of people about, and it's very common and it's a root of a lot of things. So it's very personal to me. That's also why I'm talking about it, because I dealt with it heavily. So February 1st, 2016 is a day that probably means nothing to y'all, but that was the date that I was adopted. My dad had adopted me that day. And I had always known, he wasn't my biological father, and it had never caused me issues before until that day. Like that day, it hit me like, gosh, I have a parent who doesn't care about me. Like, he left me for drugs and alcohol and to pursue a life without his kid. And so with that, that embedded in me the spirit of rejection. And so that's what I'm talking about, because there's a lot of people that deal with that. And you don't have to have been like me, abandoned by a parent, to deal with that spirit of rejection. I've talked to a lot of people. It comes from friends using them, taking advantage of them, and then just leaving them and they feel like they don't need them anymore. Or it comes from conflicts in the home where your parents might be there, but it's constant conflicts where they're demeaning you, or just stuff like that. And so I'm nervous for no reason right now. I know y'all.
It's okay.
But yeah, and so the spirit of rejection, one, it breeds condemnation over you. And so when you are held by the spirit, and a lot of times there's people who don't even realize they deal with this. I was talking to someone the other day, and we were talking about this spirit, and she was saying how she didn't even realize that she dealt with it until a pastor had preached on it, and this is what God had exposed to her. How there was so much stuff happening in her life, and how stuff was coming against her because of this spirit. And so because it breeds condemnation, you always feel guilty, why is this my fault? After I'd gotten adopted, it was just this condemnation on something I didn't even do. It wasn't my fault that he chose a lifestyle outside of me, and so, and it does that, and even when you sin, it brings this condemnation to make you feel like you hate yourself. And that's where depression and suicidal thoughts and anxiety and fear comes in. And so this spirit is such a broad thing. It breeds so much in your life. It breeds depression. I know for me, I dealt with depression for so many years, to the point I hated myself. I wanted to kill myself. And I was just, I was tired of life, because of something I didn't do, And so people can also be born and this spirit already be attached to them because a parent leaves or because of generational curses, and so that's why it's so important to stay saved, to be living right, to be in a godly household, raising your children, your future children in a godly household. The spirit of rejection, it grips every single part of your life, whether you realize you deal with it or not. And not everybody deals with this, but like the girl I was talking to, she didn't even realize she had dealt with it until she was asking God, God, why am I feeling this way? Why is this and this happening to me? And God exposed it to her. And it was through friendships, people had taken advantage of her and abused her in that arena. The spirit of rejection, it also breeds lust. You don't have to necessarily be watching pornography or anything like that to deal with lust, but it makes you want to be loved by people, a love that wasn't given to you or was taken from you. And so because it plays with your head, it makes you feel like I need to be in a relationship. And this is how people end up in toxic and abusive relationships, because they have this need to want to be loved. And you don't have to be dating someone. It could just even be friendships. Now you're hanging out with people who are doing drugs or whatever else because they're giving you this love. There's also how people end up in gangs or whatever. And so I lost where I was at.
Just roll.
Oh geez. Okay. But Matthew 5:20, it says, "But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart." It goes the same way. If a woman looks at a man with lust, she's already committed adultery with him. And so this is sin. So the spirit of rejection, it breeds sin at the end of the day. That's just what it is. Same thing with the condemnation. Romans 8:1 says, for there is no condemnation in those who are in Christ. So when you get saved, you have to pray for God to show you areas that you're dealing with, such as the spirit of rejection, and you have to cast it down. I tell people this a lot. Like, one thing I always pray in my life is Romans 8:36, who the Son sets free is free indeed. And I have to pray that over myself, because the spirit of rejection, it attaches. If you give Satan an inch, he'll take a mile. It's the same thing with the spirit of rejection. You open a tiny door, and it grips every single part of your life. So, I lost where I was at again. I'm all over the place. I'm sorry.
You got this.
Oh, another way to overcome this spirit is by praying for those who have hurt you and abused you and used you and left you. You know, the Bible tells us to, in Matthew 5:44, but I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who have persecuted you. So the only way you're going to overcome this is by forgiving those people. And it's not a one and done deal. It's not just like, oh, I forgave you, now I'm good. No, you got to constantly forgive those people every single day. You know, because Satan will always throw stuff in your face. You know, and so that's why you always have to be constantly praying against the spirit. And if you realize that you're dealing with certain stuff like lust or condemnation, it's rooted to the spirit of rejection. So definitely be praying against that. Pray against the root, get rid of it. And so, yeah, that's all I got.